Get Rich Education is brought to you by Norada Real Estate Corporate Direct and Ridge Lending Group. Cash flow real estate investors, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Did you know that you can finance up to 35 income properties all with one lender? Ridge Lending Group specializes in investment property loans, and they do it in almost every U.S. state. Ridge has worked with tens of thousands of real estate investors and homeowners all over the country. They've been doing this for investors for so long that at this point, they've helped more families realize their dreams of becoming real estate investors than any other mortgage lender in the country. To find out more, visit ridgelendinggroup.com.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
Hey, welcome to GRE. This is Get Rich Education, episode 109. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. With listeners in 172 nations, I'm back to help you build durable streams of wealth with an abundance mindset, because the scarcity mentality is abundant and the abundance mentality is scarce. If you're rearranging your schedule tomorrow because that's the day when there's buy one jar of pickles, get one free at the grocery store, or some zero impact nonsense like that, then this is not the show for you. Why live even one day of your life below your means? Use those same energies to instead expand your means, and you'll live a life even better than you ever thought you could. Today, we're talking turnkey real estate investing with Mid-South homebuyers Kerr and Liz Nowlin in Memphis, Tennessee, the longtime capital of United States cash flow, passive income that will make a positive difference in your life. Next week, I'm going to do, you and I are going to be in for a chat where I've got, I guess, a rather emotional show next week. I'm going to be on the microphone all by myself, and you and I are going to get, rather personal and maybe even emotional together. And I promise that you're going to hear some things that you've never heard before there next week. First, let's talk about an investor metric that comes back to the fact that your return from equity is always zero. You know how I'm often bringing that up, but I've got a different angle on that today. And look, I know that return from equity is always zero thing. That throws some people for a loop. Now, you've probably got this down already because you've been here with me for a while. This is also the reason that I have zero desire to have my home paid off even by the time I'm age 45 or 65 or 85, even though I do have the ability to pay off our home today. Your return from equity is always zero because the presence or absence of equity has nothing to do with whether a property goes up or down in value. We've definitely established that on the show by now, okay? If you've got a $300,000 property with a $200,000 mortgage balance, you've got $100K in equity. Now, if that $300K property drops to $250, then your equity is slashed in half from $100 down to $50. Okay, but conversely, if your $300K property rises in value to $350, well, then your equity position just rose from $100K up to $150. But see, in either of those cases, right there, the presence or absence of equity, that's completely independent of any change in property value. Change in property value is something that takes place outside the property, not inside the property. We're talking about factors like in-migration or out-migration, job expansion or contraction, and supply and demand factors. That's everything there there's some of the things rather that affect valuation. That's why the return from equity is zero. Now the return on equity as opposed to the return from equity. Now we might have a positive number with the return on equity, the ROE. In that $300,000 property example with $100K in equity, all right, say that property with $100K in equity, say it produces $8,000 of cash flow each year. Well, one could say that the return on equity is then 8%, 8K divided by 100K. But see, if the property increases in value over time and you've still got the same 8K in cash flow divided by, say, now 200K in equity, and now your return on equity was just watered down to 4%, where it had been 8% previously. So really, what's your takeaway here? The key is to reposition and spread out your equity over multiple carefully chosen properties and get that greater leverage. So to kind of summarize here, the return from equity, the RFE, is always zero. The return on equity, the ROE, that's a real number. And hopefully it's a positive one, okay? As long as your income property is positively geared. Your ROE just continues to get diluted, though, as equity builds in the home, because equity is the denominator in the formula. So it's often time for you to sell in 1031 exchange or do a cash out refinance. And, these calculations are so simple that you can do them on a Denny's napkin at midnight. It's just knowing which numbers to use and how to deploy your equity for your optimum benefit. Being an investor and you understanding things like the RFE is always, always zero. Really, that's ultimately foundational to your investing strategy as you look to take your build-up equity in any one property and spread that equity into multiple properties. When you practice that, you didn't lose any equity at all. You just spread it around, and you typically lower your risk in a lot of ways. For example, now you have the opportunity to have that same equity in multiple geographic markets. You might remember that a year ago, I went to Memphis and I visited Mid-South Homebuyers Office and walked many of their great-looking income properties with Terry and Liz, and I gave you a report from what I saw on the ground there in episode 59. To the longtime GRE listener, you're going to, kind of feel like we're revisiting some old friends today, but yet with some new content. As cash flow-centric investors, we generally avoid investing in coastal markets. They're the ones that I like to call the volatile markets, okay? Instead, Memphis, Tennessee embodies what I like to call the stable markets, and Memphis's economy is largely based on the distribution employment sector, which is that sector that's so difficult to offshore, and in turn, that spells durable rent income for you because those jobs are likely to stay in place. And you know what? If you're looking to add another property to your portfolio and you're just not really sure which metro to buy in, you're sort of looking around and plotting your next purchase, well, you might just want to buy it where you have the best manager. A frictionless relationship between you and the manager gives you that better return on time invested. You also want to invest in a company with smart systems because a portion of those operational efficiencies trickle down to you as the investor. So we're going to talk about just how a turnkey real estate company gets those advantages over other turnkey companies. We're going to talk about the prices of some of these newly renovated cash flowing homes that are already under management for you so that you do have that cash flow from the day that you buy. And these low priced homes in Memphis are in decent neighborhoods where the lawn is mowed, garbage cans are pushed back from the street, and there's really some pride of ownership in the neighborhood. And you'll understand why so many people make their first ever out-of-state income property a Mid-South homebuyer's home in Memphis. So many GRE listeners have, and experienced investors snap them up too. It's not just first-timers. So thanks to you, Get Rich Education listenership has nearly doubled over the past 6 months, and that means that more people than ever are learning how to create multiple streams of income for themselves and think more abundantly. I always want to ensure that you get a great listener experience. That's why we're one of the few shows that timestamps our show notes so that you can easily refer back to key material from prior episodes, like what was said at the 33-minute, 12-second mark of some episode 5 shows ago. So we make that easy to find, and our audio files are compressed in your podcasting device there so that when you download the show, it occupies less space on your device. And we're also making it easier for people to listen to the show that, just really aren't familiar with podcasts. Some people just aren't into the podcast ecosystem. So to make it easier, there have long been Get Rich Education listener apps for both Apple and Android. We also have more and more GRE episodes available on YouTube. Yes, even though this is an audio medium, Some people are just more familiar with YouTube, so you can tell others to listen to GRE at our YouTube channel. So for that person that just doesn't quite understand podcasts, they can see them and listen to them at getricheducation.com/YouTube. And you just see the podcast cover image the whole time on your screen while you hear the audio. Let's visit Memphis, Tennessee. Well, I'd like to welcome back on to Get Rich Education, a company that you're familiar with, Memphis, Tennessee's Mid-South Homebuyers. We have both Terry Kerr, Mid-South Homebuyers owner and founder, and Liz Nowlin, the investor coordinator. Hi again, Terry and Liz.
Hey, how's it going,
Hi,
Keith? Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Hey, it's great to have you here. Well, Liz, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the market first. What's been happening lately in Memphis?
Well, I love that question, Keith. Memphis has been doing really well. It's always been a fun, cute town where people wanted to live, but that is growing. People are moving here. We're seeing just a little bit of rent appreciation, which is really exciting for all of our investors that have been buying from us steadily over these last 15 years. Rents are going to be going up a little bit as we renew people, and that's really fun. And it's also helping us buy more houses. And so that's exciting for our investors that are coming to us in the future. As you know, Keith, we have a short wait list for our properties, which I say if you've been doing good business for 15 years, you probably ought to. But us being able to get more houses in the pipeline is exciting for us. Rents are spiking nationwide, as you know, and as a lot of folks know, and Memphis's low cost of living is starting to get us some attention. We've made some lists for best places for millennials, best places for a startup. You know, you can really just have a great quality of life out here. Keith, I joke that 90% of my life is explaining what a $58,000 house is to Californians because so many people don't have a frame of reference for these price points, these rent points, and especially that you can get that in safe, desirable neighborhoods where you can really attract a quality tenant. It's unusual. But so some of these benefits of living in Memphis are really starting to kind of compound and manifest. We're managing about 1,450 properties now. And, Keith, this number is legit. We've been hovering between a 98 and a 99% occupancy. So it's pretty incredible. I was in my property management office about 2 weeks ago, and if you had needed to move in that day, we had 3 houses that you could have moved in. You know, had more than that coming in the future, of course, but we've been running numbers on a lot of stuff, which I'm grateful that we have the staff and the time to be able to do. But recently found out that in 2015, I believe 77% of our renters renewed their leases. That's very, very, very far ahead of industry average. And then this year, we're trending towards almost 79% renewing. And of course, the folks that aren't renewing are concluding long stays very often. So property management, occupancy. One other final kind of fun number. We're curious how many days after a renovation we were taking a deposit on average. And our renovations, as massive as they are, you know how they're just top to bottom, guts and all. We're still knocking them out in 3 to 4 weeks because of our size and our efficiency. Well, it turns out we're taking a deposit -6 days from when we finish the rehab. So these jokers are flying off the shelf, no doubt.
-6. So that means that you have the renter's deposit prior to the renovation even being finished.
Yep. You know, hardly anybody ever comes to town as far as investor visits. We're all set up for you guys to do this from your living room. But on the rare occasion somebody does come, and we welcome it, by the way, love it when people come visit and check us out. But the one thing that it's the hardest for me to find to show somebody is a finished house because they fill so quickly. So I've walked an investor up a driveway with a moving truck in it more than once. So that's doing really well.
Yeah, well, that's terrific to hear about the rent appreciation, especially when one has high occupancy. And the fact that you're getting such a high retention rate with the lease renewals there is really important to an investor because we know as investors that nothing kills our cash flow like vacancy and turnover. Well, just give us a little bit more about the big picture with the why Memphis question and really what's been happening market-wise there lately as far as what business sectors are performing well.
Well, you know, we've always been America's transportation and distribution hub. We've got the second busiest cargo airport in the world. We're the third largest confluence of rail. You've got Highway 40 running coast to coast. You've got barges coming up and down the Mississippi. And What this means for your listeners, Keith, is just that we have been in a fantastic place to get a blue collar working class job for really since the city's inception. This is not a new trend. For example, all cotton grown in the U.S. before the Civil War came through Memphis, and to this day, all cotton grown in the U.S. So this is just who we've been historically. And because of this job, these economic drivers, what happens in Memphis that doesn't happen in other places is that 52% of our population is renters. Over half the city is renting, and it creates this fantastic landlord's market. It's kind of what I call it as far as market drivers, from unusual things like it being the norm here for renters to provide all their own appliances. That's mind blowing for a lot of folks if you're from other places where that wouldn't fly at all. But
right.
Investors love it. I can't tell you how many investors have told me that maintenance on appliance and replacing appliances, and when they start looking dated, is just one of their biggest costs of being a landlord. And so it's just a nice little feature, but it's really coming from the fact that Memphis on the whole doesn't have to compete for renters the way landlords in other markets do. And then Mid-South particularly doesn't, because of the way we renovate to a deeper standard than other folks, and then having our rents just a little bit lower than other folks, which is what's giving us all those fantastic numbers I was talking about before.
Yeah, Memphis fascinates some people. It has this geographic disposition such that they're a distribution hub. We've got the FedEx hub for the entire nation located in Memphis. Memphis is on the Mississippi River, something that hasn't changed since the heavy cotton harvesting days. We have a confluence of rail lines. We have a confluence of interstates. And all those things, they end up being a sustainable tenant base for blue-collar jobs. You just have a lot of these people that can go ahead and pay rent because they have a reliable job, but they just can't quite get the down payment saved up for a home, and that's where we find an arbitrage as an investor. Liz, any other thoughts on Memphis, the market?
Like I said, we were saying before, is that vacancy and maintenance are the battles. I mean, that's it. That's where you fight the fight, and I feel like we're doing it better than we've ever done it. 15 years is a long time to be in business, but we really refined it. Terry jumps in here in a little bit. He's going to talk about some of our systems, but we were kind of talking about vacancy and occupancy and renewals and all that. And I just wanted to say that we've been refining what we're bringing to the table on maintenance. Like, for example, what we were talking about a little bit before the show started is that Mid-South homebuyers doesn't, mark up materials at all for investors, meaning the paint that goes in their house, new carpet, these ongoing things that are part of it. And what I've been discovering lately is that most people aren't even aware that that's something they should be shopping for as they're looking at different property management companies. And so, when you combine the fact that because Mid-South has in-house licensed electricians, in-house licensed plumbers, we are able to keep these costs down. For example, Keith, my charge today to an investor to have a licensed electrician do an hour's worth of electrical work is $55. I mean, Keith, I don't know what Alaska pricing is, but I can tell you here in Memphis, if I pull up the yellow pages, I'm going to be writing a check for $120 to have that done. And, your typical property management company, they have no reason they couldn't afford to have that kind of person on salary. And then they're going to turn around and, whatever paint they use, wiring, whatever, they're going to mark it up 10 to 15%. And so when you take the resources we have in house and then you combine that with materials passed along at our cost, that on the maintenance side, plus what we're bringing to the table on the occupancy side, we've just found it to really be a successful formula for a long-term buy and hold.
Yeah, we're going to come back with Mid-South Homebuyers owner and founder Terry Kerr in a moment just to ask more of those questions, because you can choose a lot of providers in Memphis, but what really gives Mid-South Homebuyers the advantage and no material markup is certainly one of them. Liz Nowlin, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks, Keith. You're a joy. I really appreciate it.
You're listening to Get Rich Education. Our guest is Mid-South Homebuyers Terry Kerr and Liz Nowlin. More when we come back. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold.
Are you having a hard time finding great investment properties? Unfortunately, the best deals are rarely found locally. Successful investing begins with the right properties in the right markets. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best deals across the U.S. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly cash flow. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide to passive real estate investing at noradarealestate.com/guide. That's NORADA realestate.com/guide.
You've worked hard to acquire real estate. Don't lose it in a blue instant. We live in a litigious society. Assets must be protected. Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton founded Corporate Direct to provide strong and effective asset protection for all investors in America. Corporate Direct offers personalized attention to your specific situation and is very affordable. Call 800-600-1760 and mention Get Rich Education for a $100 discount on all formations. Garrett Sutton wrote Loopholes of Real Estate, Start Your Own Corporation, and Toxic Client, among other bestsellers. He and his experienced team at Corporate Direct want you to be protected right now and with proper corporate maintenance into the future. Visit corporatedirect.com today for a free incorporation kit or call 800-600-1760 for your Get Rich discount. That's corporatedirect.com at 800-600-1760.
This is Rich Dad Advisor Ken McElroy. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold and don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. We're with Mid-South Homebuyers founder and owner Terry Kerr and investor coordinator Liz Nowlin. You've helped so many GRE listeners with passive cash flow. Tell us more about the advantage that Mid-South Smart Systems give out-of-state investors there in Memphis, Terry.
You know, Keith, really it all starts with our renters. We need to provide the best value that we can to our renters so they stay. And fortunately, like Liz was mentioning, they do stay. And provide the best value to them really and truly is, I believe, because we provide the best renovated houses in Memphis. We do a stem to stern rehab. I like to say that we have an assembly line and we buy a house that's in desperate need of renovation and we drop that house on the assembly line and all the materials are on that assembly line and the materials just kind of jump on the house. It's super rare that we buy a house that we don't have to rip off the roof. It's super rare that we're not having to replace all of the HVAC. It's crazy rare. I'm going to say 99% of the time on these houses, we are ripping off the roofs. We're tearing out all the HVAC. We're gutting the kitchen. We're gutting the bathrooms. We're updating the electrical. We're updating all the plumbing. All the flooring is new paint inside and out, new baseboards, new bathtubs, new vanities and toilets and the whole 9 yards. So one of my favorite things to do, and I see every house twice, Keith. Like I'll walk a house and show the contractors what to do. And then when they're done, I will walk it and do what we call a blue tape walkthrough and put pieces of blue tape on stuff that just need a little bit of tightening up with the contractors. And one of my favorite things is that, like Liz mentioned before, we're running the negative 6 days on taking a deposit versus when the rehab is finished. So on average, we're taking a deposit 6 days before the project is even complete. And so many times I'll run into our renters when they're out taking a look at the property. And it's so fun to have renters look at you and say, this is the nicest house I've ever lived in. And so it feels good to provide that value. And so what's Mid-South Homebuyers doing to provide the best value to investors? It's by starting with the renter with the best renovated houses.
Yeah, I think that's something really unique that we do. I've heard a lot of providers say that if a roof has 5 years or more left on it, they keep it. And we're essentially the opposite. If a roof is 4 years or younger, we'll keep it. I was surprised at the idea of passing off property that the roof maybe only had 5 years on it, let alone less. And so, yeah, we're just sort of doing it the opposite, and it's working really well.
Yep, absolutely. And also, you know, in addition to having the best renovated house in the neighborhood, we want to price our rents just slightly under market.
Yeah.
If the rent is, $7.75 in a neighborhood, we want to be at $7.50. And, $25, might not sound like a lot to you and some of our listeners out there, but $25 is a big deal to some folks. And when it comes time for the lease renewal, we want our tenants to be able to look at the place where they're living and go, you know what? There is no way that I can go anywhere else and get a better value. So the combination of the best renovated house and under market rents means that our renters are going to continue to renew. And I think Liz mentioned earlier that we're running right now a retention rate of about 79%, and we're real proud of that. Another one of the things that we're doing that I believe is different is we're warehousing all of the materials for the houses that we're rehabbing, but also it's the same materials for the repairs. Right now, if someone has a rental property and their water heater breaks, the management company is going to have to dispatch a technician to go out there, check out, see what's wrong with the water heater, and then that technician is going to have to go to a hardware store, drive to the hardware store, stand in line at the hardware store, and drive back, all while they're on the dime for the investor owner of the property. And I'm happy to say that since we're warehousing all of these materials, any materials that our technicians that are maintaining our rental properties use during the day, when they come back in the next morning, all those materials are pulled for them and their vans are restocked. And they're restocked at no charge to our investors.
Well, it was about 1 year ago now that I had my visit there in Memphis, so I know what it's like to stand in a completely renovated single-family home for under $70,000. And your warehouse was coming online last year about this time, so I got to take a look at that and see those efficiencies. And I was in what I'm calling your control room as well, so I could see a lot of your efficient communication systems that you have with your employees and others.
We've just recently finished developing what we call the tech coordinator position. What we did is we took the best technician, the most qualified technician that we had out in the field doing HVAC installs, some electrical installs, and troubleshooting our HVAC issues. And we brought him in-house, and he sits in-house, and so the repair line rings in the office, and there's now someone in the office that can walk the renters through repair issues. For instance, the more that we can help a tenant diagnose an issue in the house and fix that issue, the more it's going to keep repair costs down for our owners. So now our tech coordinator not only will dispatch technicians to our houses all over Memphis, but will also work with the guys and gals on the repair line to try to help the renter say, turn off the thermostat and let the condenser de-ice, or make sure that it's really just a light bulb that needs to be replaced and a light fixture instead of sending an electrician out. So there's a lot of things that we're doing because we have economy of scale now that we couldn't do just a few years ago, that really and truly is providing a lot of value to our owners as well as the renters.
Yeah, when a prospective tenant is inside a home and they say that this is the nicest home that they've ever had the opportunity to reside in, and your rents are also $25 below market, that might make some investors wonder, well, yeah, how are they able to provide me with this product? And it's really so many of those in-house efficiencies and systems that you have. Tell us more about that.
Well, and Keith, what I just wanted to comment for your listeners to understand is, as they're shopping markets, providers, what folks need to realize is that the more a turnkey provider rents a house for, the more they can sell it for. And so the carrot in front of most folks' noses is to rent the house at least at market, if not above market. Unfortunately, in some cases with some folks, that's certainly more rare. And so it's a bigger deal than it sounds like for us to push those rents down, because it's genuinely pushing our prices down as well from what we could get for them. And I just kind of wanted to add that in.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a catch-22 because, like Liz said earlier, we have a short wait list, and we have buyers that are sort of tapping their feet saying, hey, when are you going to have another house to sell us? And we're out there working hot and heavy to buy houses, but we have a strict criteria. We won't buy on busy streets. We won't buy houses that are too big because they cost too much when they turn over. We're not going to buy houses that are in too sketchy of neighborhoods. So we pass on a lot of houses. And then when we do pick a property to purchase, like Liz was mentioning, we price our rents slightly under market, which means we can't sell them for as much as some of our competition, because houses in Memphis, especially as far as the rental properties are concerned, sell based upon the rent and the cash flow that they throw off. But by keeping the rents a little low, we can't sell them for as much, but that's the value, and that's what brought us to the dance, and we're going to continue to be particular there.
One of the ways that you get so many qualified tenants to apply is that you have a bigger pool of tenants to select from than some other companies do, and that's one way that you get your advantage. Tell us how you get that advantage.
There's a couple of ways. First off, we've got a referral program. So any of our renters that refer a buyer to us get a nice little referral bonus there. But I'd say the biggest thing is in Memphis, on average, an application fee. So if you want to apply to rent a house, it'll cost you $50. And that's $50 per adult. And that's a lot of money. And we don't charge an application fee. When I first got into this business, I wasn't managing houses for other folks and was just managing my own houses, and discovered that it was in my best interest as the owner of the property to waive the application fees, because you had more people that would come in and apply with us first, and see if they could buy one or rent one of our houses before going to the competition and paying that application fee. And so by waiving that income stream as a property management company, we're able to take a look at a lot more folks. And the more people we can take a look at, the better shot we have at getting the most qualified renter for that property and filling the property quicker.
It's really a huge income stream that we're deferring by doing that. There's a real cost to the criminal background checks, the tri-merge credit checks, everything that we're doing, let alone not monetizing it. I've been in property management essentially my whole adult life for 8 years before I came to work for Terry 7 years ago. And way back in the midst of time, I was a leasing agent for different corporate outfits. And I'll tell you, I could close on some renters with a no application fee special, way more so than half a first month's rent and other higher dollar cost specials, because it's just a really magical way to get people to come on and unlock. So it really means a lot that we do that.
Now, one way I know you get your efficiencies there at Mid-South is through a system and something that you call the bird sheets. Tell us about those.
Keith, it's so cool. We're all really honestly lucky to work for Terry. He has designed and made everyone's lives so efficient, but it is this master system that we created from the ground up. It's a software essentially, and it's like this beautiful network where all the moving parts of our company talk to each other. So like one small example, Keith, is say that a notice to vacate is turned in by a renter to our property manager. He is going to click one little button in our system, just click, notice to vacate turned in. This system, with no oversight, will then drop all these balls into all these courts. It's so smart, for example, that the system knows what time of year it is. And for example, if it's summer, that house is going to appear on our yard guy's yard list every 2 weeks until the system is marked that that house is occupied. No one had to do anything. And in fact, the system is routing that yard guy so that he's driving in the most efficient route possible. And that is one of the tiniest facets of this entire computer software program that we've developed. For example, when our contractors out in the field signal Terry to come for his final walkthroughs, when they mark that in the system, it emails the lender that I have entered into the system for the buyer of that house to order the appraisal. And of course, our contractor swinging hammers out there has no idea that he actually just emailed the lender to order an appraisal when he called Terry to do final walkthroughs. So the ways that we've linked these things up is really fantastic and allows us to operate with a lot of efficiency. It's a really cool program.
It's a lot of fun. Even if a contractor is doing 3 or 4 rehabs at a time and our leasing team takes a deposit and they click deposit taken, I'm sure our leasing team doesn't know it, but our contractor gets an email that says a deposit was taken on 123 Maple Street. Please put this at the front of your priority list. And so they'll shift gears and make sure that a house that has a deposit taken is on the front burner for the rehab. And there's about, I think, 27 different sheets that all talk to each other, that send auto emails. And it might not sound super sexy and fun to talk about at the cocktail party, but this kind of efficiency is sort of where the rubber meets the road and allows our employees to concentrate on doing their jobs and being creative with their jobs than having to try and use their brains to remember what to do, because the system will actually send them email reminders if they have not updated a piece of their to-do within a specific amount of time. And then if it's not done in a specific amount of time after that, it will email their manager and copy them. So it's a safety net, and it's fun.
Well, that's really smart, and that's where you get a lot of your advantages. And, Mike, really thank you again for coming back onto the show, Terry and Liz. I've got to say at this point, thank you. You've helped so many Get Rich Education listeners get started with their first turnkey property. And you guys have a lot of repeat buyers, too. And you're really maybe the company I hear the fewest complaints about at all. I mean, have you guys ever even coughed on the phone when you're talking to an investor? I mean, it's remarkable. So how can our listeners find out more about Mid-South home buyers?
Well, Keith, I am the contact for all new investors. I would love to hop on the phone and answer questions. I work with a lot of folks that have never even bought a house that they live in. We have investors in every state, but I have a lot of Californians, a lot of New Yorkers, even people that are renting in their own market. Just don't hesitate that your questions are newbie or first timer. We have people that own 600 rental properties that are buying from us and people that have never bought the house they live in. I love talking real estate with folks, and so I encourage them to just give me a call. I'm 901-217-4663, but that's probably easier grabbed from our website, which of course is midsouthhomebuyers.com, our name.com. Pretty easy there, and would love to answer any questions folks have.
Terry and Liz, it's been valuable as always. Thanks so much for coming back on to Get Rich Education.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, great job, Terry and Liz. Mid-South Homebuyers here on GRE, they're easy to remember because their appearances are episodes 9, 59, and 109. They're each 50 episodes apart. Thanks for being here, but as always, you're not here for me, you're here for you. For Get Rich Education's business developers, the sabbaticaling John Collins, and there's Marcus Whelan, sound engineer Bidger and Jompo, GetRichEducation.com's web designer Nikon Roy. I'm your host Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Cash flow real estate investors nationwide and worldwide, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Forbes has rated Memphis, Tennessee as the #1 cash flowing market in the world. Our good friends at Mid-South Homebuyers have been Memphis's premier turnkey real estate provider for 14 years with a stellar reputation and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Owner Terry Kerr was born and raised in Memphis. Yeah, he knows the market and has renovated and sold over 1,000 houses in the Memphis area. Find out what their many repeat buyers already know. Their houses are completely renovated, even come with a 1-year builder's warranty and a lifelong rental guarantee. They're a perfect fit for the first-time out-of-state investor or the seasoned investor diversifying their portfolio. Mid-South Homebuyers' friendly staff makes investing easy. Learn more at midsouthhomebuyers.com or give them a call at 901-217-HOME. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.